A man who begs for love is not a man, but a servant disguised in skin. That's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? But you, yes you, have felt this truth in your gut, haven't you? You've walked the path of the nice guy, the one who texts back too fast, the one who lays his heart out on the digital altar of a woman who barely notices. And what did it earn you? Anxiety. The agonizing fear of the silence on the other end. That's the emotional void I want to talk about, the one we modern men mistake for connection. Let's not mince words. In the kingdom of desire, the throne is not earned through softness. It is seized. Seized through power, through control, and above all, through an unshakable presence that says, without uttering a single syllable, "My world does not revolve around your approval." The truth is simple, yet brutally counterintuitive to everything you've been taught in this era of emotional oversharing. Women do not chase the man who is immediately available. They do not lust after the man who is always present, whose emotional landscape is an open, easily charted map. They are drawn, like moths to a flame, to the man who remains just beyond reach. The genius, the brutal, horrifying genius, of Machiavelli was that he dared to articulate what everyone secretly knew. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. And in the treacherous, high-stakes game of seduction, the same cold, hard law applies. Women do not beg because they are told to. They beg because their deepest, most primal instincts have been hijacked by a man who understands one fundamental principle: how to withhold his power. Not waste it trying to convince her of his worth, but to simply own it. I see you now reading this, perhaps feeling a spike of fear, a flicker of outrage. This is manipulation, you think. This is cold. I challenge you to look at your past. Look at the times you lost. The times you found yourself staring at your phone, heart pounding, composing the 10th text of the hour, asking for validation you should never have needed. In those moments, you were begging. You were surrendering your power in exchange for a temporary, fragile hit of attention. The result? She pulled away. Why? Because you destroyed the value of the prize, which is you. A man who must explain himself is a man who has already lost control of the frame. He is giving a confession of weakness, not an act of love. The constant texts, the long-winded apologies, the predictable replies, these are not virtues, they are emotional liabilities. Think of the woman on the receiving end. She is not captivated. She listens only because she's wondering when she can leave the conversation, when she can finally step off the pedestal you frantically built for her. You must learn that the power lies not in the words you say, but in the silence you own. Imagine the lion. Does he announce his hunger with a frantic roar? No. He watches. He stalks. He adopts a terrifying, deliberate rhythm. And when he acts, it is with precision, with the understanding that his presence alone is enough. You must become that lion. You must let her feel your distance. Let her wonder about your attention. When her text comes in, do not respond immediately. Let the silence stretch. Not out of childish ego, but out of disciplined, sovereign control. When you finally do speak, do so slowly. Speak less. Let your presence become the prize, not the default expectation. Every man who has begged lost. Every man who has mastered the art of withholding won, if he knew how to do it with intelligence. We've been fed a dangerous lie in this modern era, that to win a woman, you must shower her in affection, cater to her every emotional impulse, and make her feel utterly safe and validated. Machiavelli would not just scoff at this, he would find it strategically idiotic. The truth is darker, yes, but far more powerful. The more secure a woman feels in your devotion, the less she burns for you. The more you place her on a pedestal, the more she steps off it to find a man she must actually work for. This is the agonizing, secret pain of the modern good guy. He believes his honesty, his availability, and his kindness are his greatest assets, but in the brutal economy of desire, they are his biggest debts. He becomes the comfortable sofa, the predictable wallpaper. And women, despite what they say, do not desire comfort. They desire elevation, the feeling of having conquered a fortress. Stop being the one who always reaches out first. Stop being the man who asks, "Do you like me?" And start becoming the man who makes her question whether she is good enough for you. That shift, that internal, silent reframing of the dynamic, is the first, most difficult lesson in Machiavellian mastery. Do not hand your power away in the name of vulnerability. Vulnerability, when unearned and unneeded, is not intimacy. It is self-sabotage, and it communicates a profound lack of self-possession. Women want to feel like they've won something valuable. And value, my friends, is not given. It is protected. We must now examine the modern man's self-sabotage, what I call the fatal confession. You see, we are conditioned to believe that transparency is the ultimate virtue. We are told that revealing our deepest thoughts and darkest fears is the path to intimacy. This is where the collapse begins. The average man, drowning in anxiety and a desperate need for approval, rushes to confess his feelings, his intentions, his entire strategic hand, the moment he feels a flicker of connection. He texts a paragraph-long analysis of his day. He preemptively offers an apology for a minor, imagined slight. He outlines precisely where he sees the relationship going on the third date. He is trying to be trustworthy, but he comes across as disposable. Machiavelli, with his terrifying clarity, warned us, "Truth is a weapon, not a pillow. You do not lay it down for comfort. You use it when it serves you." A man who shows his full hand too soon is not trustworthy. He is predictable, and therefore he is disposable. He has nothing left to reveal, no mountains left to climb. This overavailability, this rush to emotional clarity, is the death of passion. Desire does not grow in the sterile light of full disclosure. It festers in the shadows. It blooms in the unknown. It thrives in the spaces between what she sees and what she imagines. Think of the psychological weight of this. When you are always present, always predictable, you stop being a question in her mind and become a simple statement. And statements, however pleasant, are not exciting. They are just facts. The fatal confession is the moment you destroy the mystery. Mystery is not deception. Mystery is power restrained. And the man who masters this restraint, who becomes the question she cannot stop asking, is the man who controls the emotional narrative. Women do not become obsessed with clarity. They become obsessed with confusion. Not chaos, but emotional puzzles. The moment you explain yourself too clearly, the moment you say exactly what you want, exactly how you feel, exactly where this is going, you kill the fantasy. You kill the fire. You become ordinary. In Machiavelli's world, the wise prince never showed all his motives. He created appearances. He allowed rumors to spread. He left room for others to wonder, what does he really want? Where does he truly stand? You must adopt this princely reserve in your own interactions. This is a game of psychological war, yes, but fought with elegance, not cruelty. You are not the man who is easily read. You are the one who keeps her guessing. And in that guessing, she becomes addicted to solving the riddle that is you. This is why the nice guy always fails. He gives too much, too fast. He texts too soon. He speaks too openly. He believes that his vulnerability buys affection. But vulnerability, when unearned, repels. It comes across as a needy transaction. Here are my feelings. Now give me yours. That is not seduction. That is emotional salesmanship. And no woman wants to be sold. She wants to be drawn in slowly, reluctantly, obsessively. A Machiavellian man understands the profound power of silence. When she asks where this is going, he smiles but doesn't answer directly, perhaps deflecting with a charming ambiguity. When she asks what he wants from her, he changes the subject to something playful or philosophical. This is not to manipulate, but to maintain gravity. Because once she can define everything you are, box you, shelve you, and move on, she will. But if she cannot define you, she clings to the possibility that something deeper, something she must earn to see, lies within you. Do not be the open book. Be the locked journal. She must work to open each page. She must feel like each revelation about you is earned through her patience, her loyalty, her effort. That's when your story matters to her. That's when it sticks. When she asks about your past, give her a taste, a brief, poetic, even cryptic anecdote. Let her imagination fill in the gaps. And the more she imagines, the more she invests. Every detail you leave unsaid becomes a seed in her mind. And as days pass, those seeds grow into a towering, relentless fascination. You must become the unknown country, the strange forest, the forbidden door she is not sure she should open, but cannot help reaching for. This is where passion is born, not in the known, but in the imagined. She must dream about you. She must wonder where you are, who you're thinking about, what your silence means. And her wondering becomes your throne. Machiavelli understood that the more a ruler was seen, the less he was respected. Familiarity breeds contempt. So too in the pursuit of desire, the man who is always available, always expressive, always clear, he becomes familiar. And then he becomes forgettable. But the man who keeps part of himself behind a locked door, that man lives in her thoughts long after he has left the room. This is not cruelty, it is depth. You do not lie. You simply restrain. You understand that a single well-placed pause can say more than 1,000 words. You understand that a glance, when unexplained, becomes unforgettable. When you do speak, your words carry weight because they are rare, because they are not expected. A woman may say she wants honesty, but what she craves, what truly seduces her, is the chase. The slow, tantalizing unraveling of a mystery she cannot solve. The slow unlocking of a man who gives her pieces but never the whole. That process, the pursuit, the emotional tension, the unpredictability, is what drives her obsession. Remove it, and you remove her desire. The next, and perhaps most vital, principle is the calculus of restraint. This is where we transition from merely understanding power to actively wielding it, not as a brute force, but as an invisible gravitational pull. This is the art of withholding, the masterful deployment of delayed gratification that hijacks a woman's desire and compels her, against her own logic, into relentless pursuit. Most men enter the arena of desire with an empty tank of self-control. Their reaction is instantaneous, their attention boundless, their emotional output unregulated. They see a text and the internal alarm bell screams, "Respond." Now, before she loses interest. This is the behavior of the supplicant, the man begging for a crumb of validation. But the Machiavellian man knows that attention, freely given, destroys its own value. You must learn that your time, your focus, and your presence are the most valuable currencies you possess. And like any rare currency, they must be rationed. Consider the power of the delayed response. When she texts, letting the silence stretch is not an act of immaturity. It is an act of sovereign self-possession. It communicates, non-verbally, that you are not sitting by the phone, waiting for her light to flash. It says, "My life is full. My focus is elsewhere. You are welcome here, but you are not the center of my universe." This pause, this intentional friction, forces her mind to work. It introduces a subtle, agonizing uncertainty. What is he doing? Why hasn't he replied? Is he with someone else? Her wondering becomes your leverage. Her anxiety becomes your power source. You have successfully planted a seed of obsession. The very act of having to wait for you, for your time, for your attention, elevates your perceived value. Now let's address the most potent tool in this calculus, emotional discipline. This is the Stoic foundation beneath the Machiavellian surface. When she tests you, and she will, because women test men to measure their structural integrity, your feelings must not betray you. If she cancels on you at the last minute, the average man reacts with a flurry of texts, anger, hurt, pleading, or passive-aggressive silence. He has surrendered his throne to her momentary whim. He has allowed her to control his internal state. The man who has mastered restraint does not react. He does not show hurt. He does not express anger. He says nothing. He simply moves on. That silence, that profound, unbothered discipline, echoes louder in her mind than 1,000 texts from a needy man. Men lose because they react. Powerful men watch. They calculate. They understand that one act of detachment, one quiet decision to maintain their course, has more impact than hours of pleading affection. This is not cruelty. It is strategic calculation. You are not her therapist. You are not there to fill her emotional gaps. You are here to lead, to influence, and to set the unshakable rhythm of the interaction. When she sees that you are utterly unbothered by her approval, when she sees that you remain grounded, no matter how she tests you, her primal instincts begin to bend toward you. Powerful attraction is born the moment a woman senses that you are the prize she cannot fully possess, that you are the rare man who does not chase, that your attention is a gift, not a habit. If she texts you after ignoring you for days, do not celebrate. Wait. Respond slowly, with brevity, and with a slight undercurrent of, "Oh, were you gone?" When she tests you with drama, remain unmoved. She will hate it. She will resist it. But her desire will grow because women do not desire men who surrender to their chaos. They desire men who tame it through strength. Machiavelli taught rulers to appear compassionate, but to never let that compassion undermine authority. Similarly, you must learn to smile, to charm, to love, but never at the cost of your internal dominance. You can offer warmth, but only after she has earned your fire. You can offer kindness, but only when it is balanced by unyielding self-respect. She must feel that she has entered your world, not that you have thrown yourself into hers. You must become the man she tells her friends about in whispers, the one who made her feel uncertain, the one who didn't chase, the one who made her wonder what he was really thinking. These are the men women fantasize about, not the man who cried in voice notes, but the man who vanished in silence yet never left her mind because he did not need her. He made her need him. This is the calculus of restraint. You don't hurt her, you simply allow her to earn you. And in doing so, she becomes obsessed, not with your body or your gifts, but with your profound, restrained power. We arrive now at the curse of clarity, the subtle but deadly erosion of passion that occurs when a man tries to win love through total, unvarnished honesty. The modern gospel of dating preaches that revealing your deepest thoughts, your darkest fears, and your every intention is the direct path to a woman's heart. This is a fatal misconception. Machiavelli would warn, truth is a weapon, not a pillow. You do not reveal a powerful weapon unless it is absolutely necessary for victory. You certainly don't lay it down for comfort. A man who shows his full hand is not trustworthy, he is disposable. He has nothing left to reveal, no new territory to explore. Desire does not grow in the flat, well-lit field of clarity. It flourishes in the shadowy, fertile ground of the unknown. It thrives in the delicious, frustrating space between what she sees and what she imagines about you. Mystery is not deception. It is power restrained. And the man who masters it becomes the essential question in her mind that she cannot stop asking. You must understand this deeply. Women do not become obsessed with clarity. They become obsessed with confusion. Not chaos, but intricate emotional puzzles. The moment you explain yourself too clearly, the moment you articulate exactly what you want, exactly how you feel, exactly where this is going, you snuff out the flame of fantasy. You become predictable. And predictability, my friends, is the absolute enemy of passion. The wise prince, as Machiavelli observed, never showed all his motives. He cultivated appearances. He allowed rumors to spread. He left ample room for others to wonder, what does he really want? Where does he truly stand? In seduction, you must mimic this regal reserve. You are not the man who is easily read. You are the one who keeps her guessing, and in her guessing, she becomes addicted to solving the riddle that is you. This is precisely why the so-called nice guy fails again and again. He is a torrent of instant information. He texts too soon. He speaks too openly. He operates under the tragic illusion that vulnerability buys affection. But vulnerability, when unearned, repels. It comes across as a needy transaction. Here are my feelings. Now give me yours. That isn't seduction, that's emotional accounting. No woman wants to be sold. She wants to be drawn in, slowly, reluctantly, obsessively. A Machiavellian man understands the strategic value of the unsaid. When she asks, with a testing look, "Where are we going?" he might smile, offer a slight, confident shrug, and pivot the conversation to something entirely unrelated. "I don't know, but the lighting in here is terrible. Tell me something interesting about your childhood." He does this not to be difficult, but to maintain gravity. Once she can name everything you are, once she can define you, box you, and shelve you, she can move on. But if she cannot define you, she clings to the possibility that something deeper, something she must earn, lies beneath the surface. Do not, I implore you, be the open book. Be the locked journal. She must work to open each page. She must feel that each revelation about you, a rare story, an unexpected ambition, a moment of profound insight, was earned through her patience, her loyalty, her sustained effort. That is when it truly matters to her. That is when it sticks. A man who tells all too soon is not a lover. He is an emotional liability, because there is nothing left to discover. When she probes your past, give her a taste, not the full memoir. Let your answers be brief, evocative, and even cryptic. I spent a year learning how to wait, you might say, and then pause, letting the poetic ambiguity hang in the air. Let her imagination rush in to fill the gaps. And the more she imagines, the more she invests. Every detail you leave unsaid becomes a seed in her mind, a fascinating mystery that grows into obsession. You must become the unknown country, the strange forest, the forbidden door she is not sure she should open, but cannot help reaching for. This is where passion is born, not in the safety of the known, but in the thrilling danger of the imagined. She must dream about you. She must wonder where you are, who you're thinking about, what your silence means. And her wondering, I tell you, becomes your throne. Machiavelli knew that the more a ruler was seen, the less he was respected. Familiarity breeds contempt. The man who is always available, always expressive, always clear, he becomes familiar, and then he becomes forgettable. But the man who keeps a vital part of himself locked away, that man lives in her thoughts long after he has left the room. The battlefield of desire is not fought in the texts you send or the gifts you offer, but within your own skull. We arrive at the unmoved center, the critical point of internal stability, where most modern men suffer a catastrophic collapse. A man who cannot detach from his emotions is a man who has already surrendered his throne. In love, as in war, the man who loses control of himself becomes controlled by others. Machiavelli understood this with frightening clarity. Emotion is a tool, not a master. If you are ruled by your feelings, your anxieties, your fear of loss, your desperate need for validation, you will be ruled by those who know how to provoke them. In the game of desire, emotional detachment is not indifference, it is discipline. It is the quiet, sovereign internal command that states, with finality, my feelings will not betray me. The world will test you. Women especially will test you. But when your emotions do not move recklessly, when you do not flinch under pressure, you become rare. You become dangerous. Because nothing is more profoundly seductive than a man who cannot be shaken by anything outside of himself. Most men are tragically reactive. A delayed text sends them into a spiral of panic. A small, flippant insult wounds them for days. A cold shoulder instantly turns them into needy beggars for validation. But the man who has trained himself through Stoic rigor to remain centered, especially under emotional pressure, is the man who creates psychological gravity. She leans in. She wonders why he doesn't flinch, why he doesn't explain, why he doesn't break down under her emotional storms. And in that wondering, her desire deepens and transforms. Women do not chase the emotionally needy. They do not long for the man who is too available, too open, too expressive about every thought and fear that crosses his heart. They chase the man who remains unmoved by drama, unaffected by silence, and utterly uninterested in begging for affection. He becomes a mystery, a fortress, a gravitational calm in the center of her storm. And women are drawn to that calm like fire to dry wood. Machiavelli warned that rulers must appear compassionate, but must always maintain control of the state. The same is true here. You may show warmth. You may smile. You may even listen. You may open up, but only after you have proven to yourself that your inner world cannot be dictated by her moods, her tests, or her approval. When a man reacts emotionally to everything she does, he confirms that she controls the tempo and the territory. But when he remains composed, she begins to question what power she truly has over him. A woman is not attracted to a man who needs her. She is attracted to a man who chooses her, but does not need her to breathe. That difference, that subtle distinction, is everything. Neediness reeks of fear, and fear destroys desire. But strength, internal, quiet, sovereign strength, awakens something primal in her. She may deny it with words, she may protest it with logic. But her body, her instincts, her mind, they surrender to it. Detachment is not withdrawal. It is presence without desperation. It is the ability to see clearly while others are blinded by their feelings. It is the power to walk away, not out of anger or hurt, but out of principle. When a woman disrespects your boundary and you do not react, but instead quietly disappear, your silence becomes louder than any argument could ever be. She will feel it in the emptiness. She will hear your absence in the places where your attention used to live. Because the most powerful move a man can make is to be unaffected. This is not about playing games, it is about understanding leverage. A man who cannot detach is constantly negotiating from weakness. He cannot say no. He cannot walk away. He cannot hold the line. But the detached man has no fear of loss, because he knows his value does not come from being chosen. It comes from being worthy to be chosen, and being utterly unwilling to tolerate anything beneath his standard. She may return to the man who was hardest to shake. Not the one who texted every day, but the one who smiled in silence, disappeared without drama, and reappeared with the same unbothered calm. She couldn't move him emotionally. And because she couldn't move him, he never left her mind. The men she could control faded. But the man she couldn't decode, the man who was his own unmoved center, that man haunted her. He became the irresistible force. Here is the ultimate twist, the profound revelation that separates true Machiavellian mastery from mere childish game-playing, the inescapable world. Most men, the men who fail, believe frame control is about adopting a certain attitude, a temporary mask of strength. They think it's about acting dominant. They are wrong. True frame control is not manipulation. It is the unshakable, profound commitment to your highest values, your deepest purpose, and your chosen reality. It compels her to step into your world. A man who defines the situation wins. A man who controls the context controls the outcome. This is the principle of the frame. It is invisible, yet inescapable. A woman does not fall in love with your words. She falls in love with the world you build around her, a world in which you are the unmoved center, the axis, and she is merely the orbit. The collapse of desire often starts because the man, unaware of the treasure he possesses, allows her to set the tone. She dictates the pace. She controls when and how things move forward. He becomes reactive, waiting for her reply, asking where she wants to go, adjusting his mood to her rhythm. By doing this, he communicates one fatal message. You are the leader. I am the follower. Once that frame is broken, you are merely a satellite in her universe. Machiavelli warned that power is never shared. It is seized and then carefully managed. The same is true in desire. From the first conversation, you must establish your presence as the dominant frame. This does not mean arrogance, it means intention. You do not ask, what do you want from this? You say, here is how I operate. Here is what I value. Here is what I do not tolerate. You must project structure, not softness. You must create certainty, not confusion. And the more precisely you define your boundaries, your standards, and your reality, the more she subconsciously follows. Frame control is not loud. It is the art of calm dominance. If she brings chaos, you bring stillness. If she tests you, you don't flinch. If she challenges your standards, you do not explain or negotiate. You hold the line. A man who explains himself too much has already lost the frame. A man who stays silent while radiating certainty becomes the axis around which desire spins. Women crave a man whose decisions are final, whose values are unshakable, whose direction is already chosen. Do not let her dictate the emotional tone. That is your domain. If she creates drama, you create a boundary. If she withdraws, you do not chase. You maintain the emotional frame of power. Because the moment you mirror her behavior, the moment you become as chaotic or reactive as she is, she knows she's in control. And women do not beg for what they control. They beg for what they cannot control, but deeply want to be near. She must feel that to be in your presence, she must step into your world, not drag you into hers. You do not adjust your values to keep her. You do not lower your standards to please her. Instead, you elevate your expectations and let her rise to meet them. This is not about being cold. This is about being immovable. The more certain you are of your reality, the more she will surrender to it. When she tries to test your frame, and I promise you she will, it is not to destroy it. It is to measure it. Every question, every emotional outburst, every challenge is her subconscious asking, are you strong enough to lead me? If you collapse, she loses respect. If you hold, she becomes addicted because most men bend. Most men fold. And when you don't, you become rare. You become real. You become the man she cannot forget. Even in your absence, the frame matters. When you're not around, does she still feel your standards, your boundaries, your structure? Your voice in her head, reminding her what you allow and what you don't. That's the ultimate test. You don't need to be physically present to lead. If your frame is strong enough, it leads in silence. She modifies her behavior, not because you asked, but because your energy, your consistency, your structure demand it. Machiavelli wrote that people are governed more by appearances than by truth. It's not who you are, it's the reality you project. If you project indecision, she will assume control. If you project strength, clarity, and direction without ever needing to prove it, she will feel the weight of your presence. The power of the frame lies in your ability to redefine what's happening. If she pulls away, you don't see rejection, you see qualification. If she's cold, you don't get emotional, you become more centered. Every behavior becomes data, not wounds. And because you do not take things personally, you maintain your throne. You are the sun. You do not chase. You do not orbit. You remain. And the stronger your gravitational pull, the more she spins around you, in an unconscious submission to your unwavering strength. We have charted the treacherous waters of modern desire, moving from the collapse of the beggar to the calculated power of the prince. Now we reach the climax, the final, shattering truth that brings all these principles into a single, cohesive, and irresistible force, the king's final lesson. The great failure of the modern man is his desperate search for a complicated, secret trick. He reads books, attends seminars, and tries to replicate fleeting behaviors. He chases methods. But the true Machiavellian master understands that mastery in seduction, as in politics, is not about tricks. It is about structural integrity. It is the unshakable foundation built on Stoic discipline, which allows for the effortless execution of the 5 hidden rules we have discussed. Here is the ultimate alchemy. Power combined with mystery and restraint becomes the most irresistible force a man can possess. The king's final lesson is this: you do not exist to be liked. You exist to be unforgettable. Let us summarize the path to this unforgettable presence, the 5 rules that compel her to move from liking you to obsessing over you, forcing her to beg not for your time, but for entry into your self-defined world. The servant in skin. Eliminate neediness the moment you hand over your attention too freely. You destroy its value. Stop begging for validation. Realize that your worth is inherent and non-negotiable. Your presence must become the prize, not the default. The fatal confession. Master the unsaid. Stop volunteering your feelings, your fears, and your intentions. Vulnerability, when unearned, is self-sabotage. Mystery is power restrained. Let her imagination fill in the blanks. Her fantasy is more intoxicating than your reality. Be the locked journal. The calculus of restraint. Weaponized discipline. Control your reactions. A delayed text, an unbothered silence, a non-reaction to a test. These acts of discipline echo louder than 1,000 emotional arguments. Men lose because they react. Powerful men calculate. The curse of clarity. Embrace the cryptic. Do not let her define you. If she can box you, she can shelve you. Maintain gravity by giving her pieces, never the whole. Be the unknown country. She must risk everything to explore. The chase, the slow, frustrating unraveling of your riddle, is her obsession. The unmoved center. Own the frame. This is the foundation. Your emotional state cannot be dictated by her moods, her tests, or her approval. You are the sun. You do not orbit. You remain. Frame control is the unshakable certainty of your reality, compelling her to step into your world. She must feel she has won something valuable. A woman who begs does not beg because of what she sees, but because of what she can't see. She begs because you have become a symbol in her mind, a man who holds a story he hasn't told, whose eyes contain an unreadable conviction. Her obsession becomes her mission to unlock it. The honest man is loved like a brother. The mysterious man is desired like a king. You must become the king who controls the situation without needing to explain it. The man who holds steady while others react. That is the man who owns the room. And that is the man who owns desire. The Great Seduction. Conclusion. You have just been handed the strategic blueprint for becoming an unforgettable man. This is not about cruelty, deception, or pickup artistry. This is about self-mastery applied to the dynamics of attraction. It is a philosophy rooted in the timeless wisdom of Machiavelli and buttressed by the internal strength of Stoicism. The modern dating landscape is a sea of emotionally reactive, available, and predictable men who have surrendered their frame. Your path to true, irresistible power lies in becoming the opposite. A man defined by restraint, clarity of purpose, and emotional detachment. Your goal is not to convince her of your worth. Your goal is to embody it so completely that she is forced to question her own suitability for your presence. Stop trying to win her with words. Win her with the reality you project. Do not speak of your plans. Let her see your results. Do not say how much you like her. Let her feel the tension of wondering. To command desire, you must first command yourself. That internal discipline, the ability to sit in silence with your heart on fire and not show it, is the most potent form of seduction. You must become the man she cannot move, cannot decode, and therefore cannot forget. That man is not playing the game, he is the game. The journey to that kind of sovereignty is an internal one. It requires the daily practice of emotional and strategic control. If you seek the discipline to build this unshakable inner structure, the foundation necessary to wield this power responsibly, you need the tools of ancient wisdom. This is just the first step. True self-mastery is an ongoing discipline. If you are ready to move past begging and reactiveness, and instead build the internal fortress that makes you an unforgettable man, then you need to commit to a life of structural, Stoic strength. Hit that subscribe button and join the Stoic Philosophy channel now. We release a new video every week dedicated to the ancient principles of self-control, mental fortitude, and purpose that underpin true, lasting power. Don't wait. The throne is waiting for a king.